I'm not quite sure what Pufendorf would have made of
Yeah.
Morgenthau and Mearsheimer. I do have extended critiques of Morgenthau and Mearsheimer, both of whom are often acute observers of great power
Yes,
conduct. John's always worth listening to,
absolutely.
even if you may disagree with him on some points. It's his theory of international relations that I have grave difficulties with. And Mearsheimer says you've got to increase your power. This is your main objective in the world. And to increase your power at the expense of other states. You can never have too much. Well, I think you can have too much. And I mean, the logical endpoint of increasing your power over others is putting them in a state of slavery or indentured servitude. And that is humiliating to others when you try to do that. And it causes conflict and it doesn't serve any useful purpose. So power has to be subordinated to the ends on behalf of which you're working. And those are security, prosperity, freedom, justice. Power is a means, not an end in itself. And anytime you try to make it an end in itself, I think that's the road to nemesis. Now, you know, uh, Mearsheimer is really interesting in that regard. He's kind of the opposite of Henry Kissinger in this respect because Mearsheimer has a theoretical apparatus that on its face is extremely hawkish. Yet on the issues of the day, China accepted, he's a dove in dealing with the Russians or with the Iranians. He's against all of the warmongering that we've engaged in with respect to both those powers, as am I. But I do think it's interesting that when Mearsheimer talks about contemporary issues, he doesn't put aside the legal and moral issues that are at stake in many of these conflicts. On the contrary, when discussing Gaza, he endlessly cited, rightly so, tons of studies that documented Israeli war crimes. And there's a relationship between doing wrong and acting imprudently, in my view. And I think one of the key insights of people like Pufendorf is that they saw that there's a correlation between the ethical and the prudential, that what is wrong to do is imprudent to do in most cases if you think about the long-term consequences of it. Now, hey, we have a great example in the assassination campaign against Iranian leaders. That's a grotesque wrong. It's especially grotesque when you consider that on 4 or 5 previous occasions, the Americans and Israelis did it in the context of conducting diplomatic negotiations, which is an offense against norms that are fundamental to civilization, and not only our own, but everybody's. Well, yeah, that was wrong. It was also imprudent. It was crazy. It led to the exact opposite effect from what they anticipated. And one of the reasons it did was that it was received as a wrong by those who were subject to it. So I think that understanding that ethical framework is also key to understanding aspects of how states behave, how peoples behave. And we need to keep it in mind as sort of the basic substratum by which we evaluate these things.